What's going on, everybody? Definitely humbled and blessed to be able to be here with so many people in the room that have so much more knowledge in business than I do. I'm just really hopeful that I get to learn from a lot of you guys today and be able to network after this. But I'm 25 years old. My name is Jamie Cheerio, like the cereal. I went to Michigan State University for business, for marketing and advertising. Not necessarily because that's what I wanted to do, but really because I didn't know what else to do. I think that business sometimes becomes the new undecided, and when you have no idea what you want to do with your life, go to school for business. And that was me. And I was also working part-time at Taco Bell when I was 18. And the one thing I learned from working at Taco Bell was that I never wanted to work there again. And I knew I wanted something different. And I was blessed to meet one of my business partners who introduced me into the direct sales industry when I was 18 years old. I've been involved in that industry now for about 8 years, and I found a lot of success when I was 18, 19, 20 years old. Built a team of about 10,000 salespeople all around the country. And unfortunately, that first company out of nowhere kind of shut down on us overnight, closed its doors, had quite a few humbling years, hopped around from a few different companies, ended up starting a travel and adventure club called Wataru. It's like Expedia mixed with Netflix. Did that for about 2 years, and most recently started a digital marketing business here about 2 years ago.
Awesome. All right. So, first of all, Michigan State, I didn't know that. I wouldn't put you on the panel. So, EJ, I blame you for that. And then Blake, the lines could be faster. Use the app.
We're having a meeting.
All right. So, a couple quick questions for you guys. Different industries. Blake, you talked a little bit about how you got involved, but maybe expand on that a little bit more. I'd like to know more about Jamie. What specifically you do at Invigorate? What does that look like? How'd you guys get into it? You guys are new in the market. Obviously, you're a little bit more startup-esque, making that happen. You're corporate. How did that actually happen? And what makes you stay within those industries? What excites you? What gets you guys up in the morning and says, hey, this is what I want to do? All right, two different industries. So we'll start with you, Jamie.
Yeah, so in my career in direct sales and network marketing, I spent a lot of time in a bunch of different organizations building large sales teams. And I spent a lot of time creating marketing materials for all the organizations I was a part of, sales videos, promotional material, all that kind of stuff. And I just kind of found myself in a position where I saw that I could offer more to the marketplace than just creating marketing materials for my sales team just to be able to increase, their commissions. So saw a pretty cool opportunity, and what ended up happening was the CEO of one of the companies I was working for, he introduced me to one of his buddies in Utah who owned a health and wellness company who needed a promotional video done. So my business partner and I, we just sat down, we wrote the storyboard and the script, contracted out an animator, got this awesome marketing video done for them, and then they wanted to market it. They wanted to get it out to the world, and I was thinking, okay, well, how are we going to do this? So I contracted out a Facebook marketer, I contracted out a website designer, and we got this thing going, and kind of the light bulb went off for us, and we realized, okay, there is a serious need in the market. A lot of people in a generation that, with billboards and TV commercials and print ads, and we're shifting over to digital marketing, and we saw an opportunity to be able to really bring a lot of service to the marketplace, and it was just an awesome opportunity there, and we started with trying to do everything for everybody. We tried to say we're going to be your Facebook marketers, your website designers, your everything you can think of digital under the sun, and we got overwhelmed. We realized that we couldn't go ahead and fulfill on all of those things for all these people, and we ended up starting with an Instagram software, something that will grow your following on Instagram, targeted followers every single month based on your niche and your geolocation, and we grew that to a couple hundred clients over the first year, laid a pretty solid foundation, and through that foundation we were able to get back into the full service digital marketing, and now we actually had the capital to be able to lock down some of those partnerships, to be able to lock down some of the Facebook marketers, the website designers, different technologies for getting your listings corrected online, your reputation management, that kind of stuff. So just kind of fell into it, to be completely honest, and I had a little bit of a falling out in the direct sales industry. There's a lot of flash, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors, a lot of empty promises that kind of happened throughout that entire experience for me, and a lot of humbling stuff that I'll talk about in some of the later questions when I watched that first company kind of fall out from under me. So I just decided, rather than putting my hopes and dreams in somebody else's their responsibility, I decided to take responsibility for it myself and start my own company.
So back before I started with Chick-fil-A in 2010, I had my own lawn business. So I kind of did the cliche thing in high school and started my own lawn business. I enjoyed mowing lawns. I enjoyed being outside. I enjoyed the hard work. I enjoyed the gratitude that came out of it. And I actually grew it to about 30 accounts by the time I graduated high school. And then I went off to college at University of Kentucky, the good blue. We only play basketball, so don't worry. Except when we're playing Duke, apparently. But yeah, so I had to give up a lot of my accounts, learned some business thing there. I went to sell my accounts. They actually ended up, the guy I was selling them to came in and underbid them because he knew I was giving them up and took them from me. So that was a real quick learning experience for me. And then I came home the next summer and I had some accounts that were like, hey, like we can maintain our stuff when you're not there, but when you're here, we want you still. So it turned out to be about 10 or 15 different accounts. And I was like, I need to make a little bit more money. And so I was like, I'll go up and work at Chick-fil-A. Like I had this plan where everything I made at Chick-fil-A covered my expenses mowing, everything I made mowing went in the bank. And it worked out well, except at Chick-fil-A I drank the Kool-Aid. And it was crazy. It was in a town where there was only one Chick-fil-A. It wasn't in a mall, it was a freestanding one. But I learned in 3 months real quick a whole lot of stuff. And what I was going in thinking was going to be a job became a family. It became something that I actually looked forward to going to. And so I was only there for 3 months during the summer. And my last day I remember, I was like, man, like there was just something different about this. Growing up, my cousin and I had always said we weren't going to get in the food industry. We both did. She was a server, got out of it, and I got stuck in it. And so I said, okay, there's something to this. So I went back up to school, and that next semester I was just kind of trying to figure out what I was going to do. College was not my thing. The deans of a couple colleges at the university suggested that I leave their college. And so I was like, I just got to get a degree and get out of here. I was blessed and my parents paid for 4 years. My dad said I'm not paying a minute over 4 years. So I had to figure out how to get 5 years down to 4 real quick. And so the following spring, so January of 11, a new Chick-fil-A opened close by. And I said, you know what, I'm going to go get a job there and see what's up. And so from that point on, I just kind of sold out on Chick-fil-A. My grades continued to suffer because I was usually working somewhere between 40 and 50 hours a week and taking anywhere from 18 to 21 hours course load, but I loved what I was doing. And so at that point I said, okay, I'm sold out on the company, now what am I going to do? And I had enough experience and talked to enough people that I knew I didn't have the capital to go and buy into a franchise. Most franchises, the initial investment, plus you have to put up all the assets and all that kind of stuff. I was like, I'm going to be Andy's age before I can do this.
They were a big supplier at Woodside.
And so, no comment. And so anyways, I said, you know, I want to be with Chick-fil-A. I didn't know if I want to be a franchise owner or if I want to work on our corporate staff. And so Chick-fil-A is a leadership development program that's built for people that are pretty much coming out of the restaurant that have aspirations to be with Chick-fil-A long term. And it's very difficult to get into. And so I want the fastest way to get out of the restaurant and go to that next chapter in life. That's kind of always how I've been. I don't slow down much. And so I ended up joining that in December 2014. And I had no clue what I was getting into. My role was a grand opening supervisor, and so I traveled the country working with new franchise owners, majority that don't have any Chick-fil-A experience, open their new business, which was way over my head. I had 16 different mailing addresses in the first year I was in the program. I was home 2 weeks out of 52 that year. And so I saw a lot, but it was really cool because I got to work with people that Chick-fil-A had. So there were guys I'd be like, how the heck did you get selected? And then looking back, I'm like, wow, like there is not a mold that Chick-fil-A looks for. A lot of people come from a lot of different walks of life, a lot of different strengths that come to the table. And so it was really humbling for me and eye-opening for me, and a lot of experience that I was able to gain from that. So I did that for about 1.5 years, and then they switched my role over to an interim manager. And so Chick-fil-A primarily runs the 2,500 locations we have that are all franchised. They'll have about 100 that are corporately owned for various reasons. And so my role was to come in and run that company-owned restaurant. Where here I'm responsible for a couple $1 million in sales. There I had a couple $1 billion about 10 billion behind me that I was representing. And so that was a big reality. And, but I got to play in the business because my paycheck didn't determine off how that business performed. And so Chick-fil-A afforded me that opportunity to really get that experience and get feedback. And then as I went through different markets, I basically covered the whole eastern half of the US. So like Des Moines to Houston and east, I was there. And so a lot of different people I got to work with, a lot of different owner-operators I got to work with, a lot of staff members I got to interact with. And so that's, going through that process is when I finally decided I don't want to go staff, I want to be an operator. I like to have the ability to pull a lot of levers in the business and watch what happens. I kind of think of the business like a slot machine, and when I pull it, what's going to pop up? And I do that every day. You can ask my staff, some days they hate me and some days they hate me more. But we do crazy stuff. I didn't, like I said earlier, I didn't plan on being in Michigan. I actually interviewed for 3 stores, one in Louisville, Kentucky, and 2 in Tampa, Florida, and got told no on all of them. And so I kind of sat down, I was like, all right, God, like, what's the deal here? And talking to our franchise selection team, they're like, well, so what do you think about Minnesota? I was like, nothing at all. And I knew Michigan was an emerging market, and I was like, what about Michigan? And they said, well, at that point, Somerset wasn't, they didn't have a lease signed for Somerset yet. And they had already pretty much selected everybody in Grand Rapids and Lansing. I said, well, we have this mall. I was like, a mall? We don't open malls anymore. And they're like, we are now. I was like, well, leave it to me to go to a mall. And so it was a total God thing that I got here. Everything that I was looking for in a franchise and in a location is what I got. I kind of like to have my own turf to play on. I don't have a store for 80 miles. When I run out of product, it's really bad, but when I'm marketing, it's really good. And so since then, it has just been, Andy knows it's been crazy. Had a lot of opportunity through Woodside here, been able to network a lot, meet a lot of people, open a lot of doors. The ownership at Somerset is phenomenal, and so I've been able to work with them. And at the end of the day, now that, I look at it as I'm 28 and I've pretty much made my last career move. I may move locations, but there's something to be said about that. And there's something for me to know that what Chick-fil-A stands for, it's not going anywhere. There's been quite a few people that Truett, our founder, he passed away a couple years ago, but they'd hand him a blank check and say, how much do you want it for? And he's like, it's not for sale, which I don't think you see much. And we're still privately owned. We stay closed on Sundays. If we opened on Sundays, I think our sales would go down. And so it's just a really, really good company that I really enjoy being a part of. And now I'm using it to try to leverage the brand to show other people that opportunity. I'm the oldest one on my staff pretty much. And so to take those young professionals that sometimes don't understand or don't realize what their potential can be because of financial obligations or just what they don't know. And I try to connect those dots for them and as much as I can make those dreams a reality. So.
Not bad. And my son works for you, and some days he hates you.
That's when the lines go long.
That's when the lines go long. Well, actually, Caleb loves you, and he loves working there. He loves the Chick-fil-A experience, even at 17. So listen to this. You guys are 25, 28. I'm 32. So it was a joke, people. So 25 and 28, pretty young, which puts you in what as millennials, right? So all day long in my world, I do consulting, and I hear all the time about people, millennial this, millennial that. They don't seem to come through all the stereotypes that are there, and I agree with almost 99.9% of them. But looking at you two, how has that affected you? I mean, you're in that generation. Has that affected you at all with your career paths, where you've gone? Have you ever felt that? Or do you think you're breaking stereotypes? Are you setting examples for your generation? Are you changing paradigms for us? Because truthfully, I work with a ton of millennials and I enjoy it. I think we get a ton of mileage because of how y'all think, how y'all perform. But does that question make sense, even what I'm asking you? Hopefully, all right. Jamie?
I mean, my main target market is honestly people older than me. You know, I don't go after people my age who are at startups. I'm looking for people with established businesses because a couple of different things is they can teach me a lot, and I know that my generation, the people here, we can teach them too. So there really is this cooperation that happens between the two generations, which is such a powerful thing to be able to experience. I mean, I've gotten so much mentorship from so many people, some of them here in this room that have helped me just in the last couple of years with starting my company, and teaching me you know, the golden rule in business, teaching me, how we're actually supposed to operate in referral marketing and things like that. You scratch my back, I'll scratch your back, how that actually works in their generation, because a lot of that's lost on my generation. There's so many, I guess, like social cues in business that we weren't taught that I think is so important for us to learn from your generation, and that's something that I respect super highly, and I try to take away anytime I have an interaction with someone who's older than me. But at the same time, it's cool because it's humbling when I get the chance to be able to take someone who has no idea how the digital space works, and to be able to break it down for them and get them to be able to understand the opportunity for them to be able to tell their story in a different way than they've traditionally told it, and see an exponentially bigger opportunity now that people's attention is starting to shift from TV commercials to everybody's on their cell phone. So yeah, it's been a fun experience to be able to work with people older than me, and I think that people my age should listen a little bit more. But yeah, that's what I'm doing.
So the millennial thing hasn't really been a challenge for me. I sit in rooms and we all joke in our Truth at Work group about I'm the only millennial in the room, and I'm just like, go ahead, give it to me, but I'll break the stereotype. So I think for me, when people try to put a stereotype on me, that's fine. Just watch my work, watch my results. Actions speak louder than words to me. But then at the same time, when you get a table to have the conversations, you got to be ready to go. I'm 28, I've owned a business for 2 years. I sit across the table from a lot of people, corporate staff and not, that want to tell me how to do some things, and I'll push back on them. So I have a consultant. And there's been some times I've had to call him and apologize because of the way I handled it, but at the same time, he's got to understand that you all have entrusted me to represent the brand. I make up a small percentage of the brand, but you have entrusted me with that, and so there are some ways that I'm going to run my business, and I need you to support that. And so I think that's where sometimes millennials, they let that stereotype get to them, and it causes them to maybe cower down. But then I also think with millennials, there's hard work is a 4-letter word, and I don't believe that. I constantly driving my guys now, you work till the job's done, and if you want to get ahead, you got to be willing to grind, and you got to have balance. And so my thing is, I work hard, I play harder. And we were talking the other day, I haven't seen probably less than 60, 70, 80 hours in a week in years. Do I get tired? Yes. Do I regret it? No. I have fun with what I do. One day that'll probably change, where I back off a little bit. But I remember one morning at our group, I walked in, I said, guys, when does it stop? And they said, what? I said, when do I stop pushing so hard? And they said, you don't. And so I think that's maybe the difference in millennials, is that they want to stop and they do. And for me, being a business owner, you can't.
Awesome. And it has been fun. Blake talked about our group a little bit. He's a part of it, and that the demographics in there are all different. So if y'all are thinking about doing that, it's been a really great experience. Honestly, traditionally, I can say this, I haven't always been a groups guy. That's the truth, in all honest confession. But being with these guys, all the way from insurance to Chick-fil-A to construction to myself and everyone in between, and being able to share life together in there and do life together and really talk about everything from the personal, the business, to spiritual, I know it's been huge for all of us. I know that you go around the room, the guys would say, yeah, it's been great, and seeing all stick together. So couldn't encourage you more to check that out, as we're going to do that on the 5th. So thinking about that too. So a couple other questions, and then we want to open up the floor real quick here. Faith in work, right? That's a tricky thing. When we're out there, I know in my business sometimes I'm out there, I'm getting hit with a lot of different things sometimes, where I have to think about, okay, what does that mean with the cross-section of my faith and how I'm interacting with the community? I know Chick-fil-A has a faith background with it, although they would say they're not a Christian organization, even though that is their backbone. And then obviously, Jamie, with what you're doing, how do you incorporate faith in work? What does that look like with your employees, with your communities? And how has your faith community, bolstered you and gives you different things that you use in your work environment?
When I first started business, I was not a Christian. I just want to throw that out there. I was raised in a household where my mom was Jewish, my dad was Catholic, and they didn't tell me anything about the Lord my entire life, to be completely honest. And it was in those humbling years when my first company, shut down, that I had an identity crisis, to be completely honest. I tied my entire identity of who I was to that person I was in that company, and it was tough. I had an ego death, to be completely honest. And so one of the speakers talked about coming to the end of yourself, and that was the exact moment that I really had. And there was a bunch of different things that I won't go super deep into the testimony, but we had a few different mission trips that we had put together through a few of our organizations, and we take friends and family every single year down to Gary, West Virginia, poorest city in the United States, 99% unemployment rate. And I met this guy named Jack who runs this organization called the School for Life, and he was a real estate agent back in the day in the 70s. He was making $7-8 million a year back then, which is a lot more money than it is now. And he said he was living the Jordan Belfort lifestyle, planes, girls, Vegas, drugs, the whole deal. And then one day he was in his huge house, completely miserable, and he decided to sell everything he had. Over 1,000 rental properties, bought a middle school down in West Virginia, and decided to dedicate his life to ministry. And he was somebody who had studied all the things that I was studying at the time. I was studying, science of achievement, Napoleon Hill, all of this stuff, goal setting, and that's where I really, I didn't have a spiritual background. When I learned about goal setting, that was what I put everything into the science of achievement. He's like, yeah, those books are incredible, but there's another side to the scale. It's the science of achievement on one side, and you have the art of fulfillment on the other side. He's like, you being young, he's like, I've dedicated my entire life now to the art of fulfillment. He's like, but you being young, you need to find this balance somewhere in the middle of, between the science of achievement and the art of fulfillment. And, long story short, a couple mission trips later, I became a Christian. If anyone wants to ask about that story, I'll tell you another time. But founded my business with, 3 guys that are all Christians as well. We started our business with the mission, better business leads to a better world. Anybody gets my business card, it says that right on the back. And you gotta ask yourself, what is better business? And better business is business that operates under the golden rule, business that operates with integrity. And I found, at least in my industry, a lot of the time it's, let me figure out what your budget is, and then I'm gonna take your entire budget. That's a lot of my industry, rather than actually taking someone's budget and providing somebody with work that is of the skill set that budget can provide. I've noticed that a lot of the time in the industry, someone will hire a Facebook marketer for, let's say, a salary of $3,000 a month, and then they'll have the same guy working on a $10,000 a month account as they do on a $1,000 a month account. So it's the same skill set, but it's basically, what's your budget and what can we get you for? So for us, we've really sat back and figured out, okay, what is this actually worth? And giving people what they need, not just what we're trying to sell them. And I really joined the digital marketing industry when digital marketing was a hot topic. Everybody and their mom wanted to start a digital marketing industry. There was these gurus on YouTube and on Facebook that said, I'll teach you how to make $10,000 a month. All you gotta do is sell 10 people on $1,000 a month. But what ended up happening was there was all of these people who they sold 10 people on $1,000 a month, but they never actually took the time to learn the skill set of how to provide a service. And they lost those clients. Then you had on the flip side, the people who took the time, who actually went out there and learned the service. They actually did well. They provided very well for their clients, well deserved that $1,000 a month, but they hit a ceiling. They capped out. They were spending so much time fulfilling for these people that they had no ability to prospect, no ability to go out and get new sales. So for us, we really saw this big niche in the market where I really saw these sales type people who saw the niche of digital marketing, who wanted to take advantage of selling it, but didn't want to learn how to actually provide it. And then I saw these creative type people who hated selling. So we found a way to bridge the gap and have the two groups cooperate. So now I have a group of salespeople that leverage our infrastructure, freelancers and contractors all over the country. And then our freelancers and contractors, we provide all of their customers for them exclusively.
So, so Chick-fil-A is a biblically based company is what we say. But you can't sell Christian chickens. I've tried, it doesn't work. But you don't have to pray before you eat Chick-fil-A because the chicken's already been blessed. So there we go. So, yeah, I mean, that was definitely for me a huge selling point with Chick-fil-A. But we don't run around just beating the Bible over people. You know, Andy's been down, and there's a plaque that sits out in front of our corporate office with our mission statement. And it's to glorify God by being a faithful steward of all that has been entrusted to us, and to have a positive impact on all who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. So that's a lot. God's only in there once, but there's a whole lot of God in there throughout. And that's how Chick-fil-A operates. Every Monday morning, there's an optional Monday morning Devo. Dan Cathy, Truett's son, leads it very often, or plays music for it. I don't know many companies that have that. Many companies that are valued at over $10 billion. And so, you know, that's one. Dan, I've been with Dan. He's come to not my restaurant, but some other restaurants. I've been with him one-on-one. Hey, can I pray for you? That's from the top. And so to have that gives me a lot of assurances in what I do. In some of the stores that I've run, I've come in and it's been a rough crew. From use of drugs to profanity to a whole host of things. And because of what I believe and because of Chick-fil-A's stance, I'm able to kind of say what I want. You know, Caleb would not be working at Chick-fil-A if four-letter words are flying off every other sentence.
Caleb would be coming home.
And so, you know, that's, I've fired people on the fact of that because it is not what I stand for. And I don't care what legal repercussions I could have, that's not what's going to happen. Because Caleb came to work at Chick-fil-A because that doesn't happen there. And so to be a part of an organization that has that is huge for me. And to know that they back you on that is huge. And I mean, I can give example after example after example of just spiritually how we align. I mean, the amount of, we have an annual conference every year that they actually pick up a tab for. Every operator, their spouse, every staff member, their spouse, and a few contractors gets up to about 6,500 people. They put us up for 3 days and don't spare an expense. And when we kick off on Sunday night, this last year we had, I forget who our house band was. But we'll get like the Mercy Me's and the David Crowders, and they'll come in and they'll lead worship for us. And that's how we kick off the conference. And so it's just incredible to be a part of that. And because of that, it empowers me to, you know, bring my faith into my work and what I do. You know, I tell people I don't walk in and start praying over people and doing this and that, but I think it's in how you treat people. And you know, there's a way that we're going to run business, and we're going to work hard, but we're going to treat people well. And hopefully they see some stuff that's different about us and makes them ask questions. And so even through some of my leaders, they go here to Woodside, and they started bringing some of the team members to church with them. And so there's a guy that used to work for us, and he's Muslim, and he got to come to Woodside one day for a Sunday morning service. And just to have the environment that they know they can invite people like that is huge for me. So.
Good stuff. All right, questions for these guys at all? We have a couple minutes here, so if anyone has questions, I'm sure they'd be happy to field those. Anything at all?
Yeah. So in your answers, you didn't really address the one question that I would have had, and I think probably some other people in the same room have the same question, which is, in speaking of millennials, I've always believed that there are millennials out there that are really, really good, solid workers for whatever reason. You know, God made them that way, or it was environmental, whatever. But what you didn't, the question you didn't answer is, what do you think about millennials overall? If you were to rate them, which ones? You know, forget the stereotypes that we hear about. You know, what are you guys really? What's your generation really? Not you entrepreneurs, because we're all wired different. But the majority of the millennials, how would you categorize them?
I would say that they're the future leaders. That's a conversation I have with Andy a lot, is we got to get millennials in this room more. We got to get millennials in church leadership more, because they're the future leaders. And as long as, any group, as long as you stereotype it, you're discrediting it. And you need to figure out what the strengths are and leverage them to accomplish the end goal.
I would say that I don't really think that millennials are lazy. I think that millennials are distracted. I mean, it takes a lot of hard work to stay up all night playing Xbox Live. It does. They're just distracted. They're inundated with way too much stuff. It's like it takes a lot of energy to sit there and scroll on your phone all day long. They're just completely distracted. So you got to figure out how you're going to catch their attention. To be completely honest, you got to figure out what's important to them. And sometimes you have to try to get on the same frequency as them. You know, it's really hard just in general. It doesn't matter who I'm talking to, whether I'm talking to an adult or an adult's talking to me. If you're trying to get a point across of how, you know, if there is an issue and how they should behave, because there's plenty of issues in my generation. I'm not going to say there's not. Being able to come down to them and bring them up to where you're at, rather than, you know, just trying to toss a rope down to them and saying climb up to where I'm at. You got to walk down to them and then walk them up the mountain. You can't just say, hey, come to me, you know, and toss a rope to them. You got to figure out exactly where they're at, and vice versa. You know, just in general in communication, I think you got to figure out where someone's at and walk them to where you're at, rather than just kind of hope and assume and ask questions. Why are they like this? You know, really figure out where that person's at and where the disconnect is.
So treat you like humans. All right, other questions? Mr. J.
I just have a statement to all what you both said. If we want millennials in any type of atmosphere, we have to invite them. But we become inclusive in our age group and stay in that vein, and we're not raising our leaders of the future, because they're not our leaders of the future, they're our leaders now. And it starts from middle school all the way up. So their responsibility is to come a generation after them, because that generation is going to be a lot different as well. And they're going to be the old folk one day in the room. But at the end of the day, if you're not having someone that you're definitely discipling, then how are you truly leading?
Good stuff. Thank you, sir. Question, anyone else? All right, get my exercise.
So I would be remiss in not asking, when will the next Chick-fil-A's be opening up? Because I've been waiting in that line, and Tori more than once. That's the first part, and the second part of the question is, I've been in line there, and your staff was so friendly. How does your staff handle, because I witnessed it, people cutting and all these crazy things sort of happening, because, you know, they are young, many of them, and I witnessed it, and I actually said to these young girls, you realize you're cutting, and they weren't very nice teenagers, and, you know, it was just a whole interesting experience, but I was just curious on those two.
And back again. 2 mics would have made sense.
You put this together, right?
Why do you think it's so good?
So if I tell you when the next one's coming, you're going to stop coming to mine. So there's not any more coming. And when the crowd gets crazy, we just call security. No. Honestly, like, I don't hear about it a whole lot. I know it happens. At some point, I got to let people be people and be civilized. And so, unfortunately, you had that. It puts us in a really tough spot as well. Sometimes people think we're miracle workers, and we're not. We just sell chicken. And so, yeah, I mean, if you, I've got stories for days on this stuff that somehow became my fault. Oh, you didn't order that, but I didn't give it to you. Interesting. So yeah, I mean, our staff, you know, they've got a really tough job. They're the ones that are on stage every day. We average about 3,000 guests a day, and they're the ones performing. And so they got to keep it together. It takes a lot of training. We invest about 40 hours in training them before they're ever really allowed to start interacting with guests. And then after that, it's continual training, continual feedback, continual coaching. Because my expectation is for them is we never settle. Chick-fil-A kind of has this culture that we set a bar that we want to reach, and as soon as we get to the bar, we notch it up one. And so we never really reach our bar, which makes our job really tough. From the time we opened to now, we've cut our line time in almost half. Probably more. I'd say the first week we were open was about 45 minutes long, stretching into Nordstrom. Tomorrow, we'll stretch to the elevator and pretty much turn them in under 8 minutes. And we're doing more volume, we're moving more people. And so it's just continually, working with them. And that's hard for a 16-year-old when they got to come in and work a 6 or 8 hour day. But we're trying to build some work ethic and some character in them too.
After playing Fortnite all night?
Any better?
I'm playing the game too, so. All right, a couple more questions, anyone at all? I got one. Mark?
So one of the things that I've noticed with millennials, and this is because we've shown them by letting them know what's going on with our companies, we have I hear a lot of millennials say, I'll never be loyal to a company because I saw what happened to my father. When he was loyal to the same company for 30 years and he got laid off right before retirement, or he lost his pension or whatever. You said that you're loyal and will be, and I don't hear loyalty, even the word come out of many millennials. You said you're loyal to Chick-fil-A, why?
So I think with millennials, they, what you just said, they don't want to be loyal because they took a risk. They saw their dad take a risk on somebody and kind of got the short end of the stick, right? But we all take risk every day. And so they want to know that you'll take a risk on them. So Chick-fil-A took a risk on me. I can pull out my phone right now and via social media, I can do some pretty big damage to the brand. That's the power I have. That's the platform I have. And they take that risk on me. That's why I'm loyal to them, because they're willing to invest in me. I think a lot of people in general want someone to make an investment on them. Like you said earlier, if you stereotype one group, you miss something out, and you got to take the risk on them. Like I'm the oldest one on my staff, and I tell them probably weekly that they're not failing enough. Because if they're not failing, they're not improving. I use a term, failing forward. That's been around a little bit, but that's what I encourage them to do. And I say if it gets easy, you're not working hard enough. So, does that answer your question?
All right, let's give these guys a big round of applause for being on the same too. You can ask some questions. Thank you guys very much. Good stuff. We're now going to flip back over to simulcast.